Y'all, I got a word from God. So it rained while I was walking, right? And I was about 10 minutes into my walk and it started raining. Then it started pouring heavy, like I'm talking about heavy. I had every opportunity to turn around. But I was like, you know what? I need to wash my hair anyways. God, I could at least put some pre-poo in my hair. You know what I'm saying? So it would be, since nature is giving a bath and all. And so as I'm walking, I'm just thinking, and I got on a really amazing phone call, and I couldn't, at the time, I couldn't pull out my phone because it was raining so hard. So as I'm talking to the person on the phone, they're explaining to me different things, and they're sending me stuff through text message, and I had to remind them, like, hey, I'm on a walk right now, like I'm taking a break, but I'm gonna, look at everything later. Anyways, so I got a message, and the message that I got was, God said, allow me to cleanse your spirit. Allow me to take on whatever it is that you're holding on to. Because you see, sometimes God got to put water in your hands for you to let that thing go. Ooh, let me say that again. Sometimes God has to put water in your hands while you're holding on to your anger, or while you're holding on to resentment, or while you're holding on to something. But what happens is you get that water in between your fingers and you lose your grip. You lose your grip. And let me tell you something. When you act in grace, when you are forgiving towards others, when you are not angry towards others, even for their wrongdoing, or even for your wrongdoing, or you holding on to some type of guilt, it will be washed away. There will get a certain point where you're tired of being tired of being tired of being tired. You start learning the lessons. You start taking those L's. And my friend Sphinx God 7 said, I take a loss and I take a, wait a minute. I make a loss and take a L and turn it into a lesson. Something like that. He said that. And if I messed that up, Sphinx, I'm so sorry. But the point is that sometimes you have to allow yourself to go through the motions. You have to allow yourself to do this, because I'm telling y'all, it rained, right? It was sprinkling at first. Then it got heavy. Like I'm talking about, it's so heavy, my socks are soaked. But as you see, if you look around, it's not raining anymore. Like my shirt is drenched. That's why, low-key, you can kind of see through my shirt right now. I'm drenched in water. But the thing is, I decided not to turn back. And sometimes in your journey, it's going to be right when you start, okay? My friend, Jamal Mitchell, he made a video earlier. And he said, you just got to get started. You just got to start. You got to get started to go towards that which you want. And so I take that and I say that because as you get started, things are going to happen. And the in-between time, things are going to happen when you're like, really? I just started this 2 seconds ago. And you want to turn back and you want to go home and you just literally walked out 2 steps. Don't turn around. I'm reminded of the story of Lot in Sodom and Gomorrah. And if y'all remember that story, it talks about basically, Lot had to leave the city and he had his wife. Well, they had to keep going for their mission. Well, Lot's wife decided to turn around. When she turned around, she turned into stone, okay? She turned into stone, and Lot had to keep going. When I say that, this is all figurative language, right? Parabolics, parables. So when that's being said, just understand, when you look back, you get stuck. You stay in the same place. You get stagnant. You don't allow yourself to move through. I was also talking to my friend, Mr. Howard Hughes III, and one of the things that we discussed was preparation. Preparation and always being prepared. And he was telling me, he said, Khadijah, you got to be ready for whatever. You have to trust that what it is that you're doing, you're constantly being prepared. You can't be scared of the mission. You can't be scared. Keep your focus and lock in, right? And so as I'm locking in, shout out to my brothers, as I'm locking in, as I'm honing in, as I'm tightening up on certain areas of business, of my life, etc., etc. It's just like, stop creating excuses for yourself. We rationalize excuses. We say, oh, I don't like how that feels. Well, get used to it. Get used to it, because this trial, this tribulation is coming to you to prepare you for what's to come. If you really want to go after your dreams and goals, it requires a new person out of you. You are going to change. You are going to evolve. And you're not going to recognize the person that you are. You know why? Because if you did not change, okay, if you didn't change, if you knew how to get to where you want to go, you'd already be there. And you'd already be that person. But you haven't learned the lessons that that person needs to learn in order to be who it is that they need to be. And you have to allow yourself time. I know that it's hard to hear, y'all. I know that it can get rough. I know that sometimes you fresh in your journey, okay? Like fresh in your journey. And you making decisions and you like, you know what? I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make that happen. I'm going to take myself to the next level. I'm going to go here. I'm going to do this. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. It doesn't work out the first time. But you'll never know if you quit. You cannot quit. I'm telling y'all. There's been so many times of me doing what I do that I've wanted to quit. There's so many times when I wanted to open my mouth and say stuff that absolutely was unnecessary. But I learned to shut my mouth. I learned to close it. I learned to compose myself. But guess what? My ego learned to turn down. And guess what else? I learned self-mastery. And through those lessons, I would get a repeated lesson. Will come again. Repeated lesson, right? My friend Jamal says the lesson won't be repeated until it's learned, right? So if the lesson's going to be, he constantly reminds me of that, right? So if the lesson's going to be repeated until it's learned, what are you learning? Are you taking your lessons and learning? Stop looking at them as, oh, I'm going through this. You're too far in it. Step out of it. Become the observer of yourself. Observe, okay, I don't like this. I don't like this feeling. You know, maybe that requires something different. And y'all, sorry, y'all, the train is coming. But maybe that requires something different of y'all. Maybe that requires you to, you know, do something that you don't want to do. Maybe it requires you to instantly forgive. The faster, I will say this, the faster that you get and the better that you get at forgiving, the faster that you do it each time something wrong happens and you have to forgive. Let me say that again. The faster that you forgive in any type of situation, the faster you forgive in every situation. And why? Why? Khadijah, what you talking about? Why you say that? Because I remember once upon a time, forgiveness was a difficult, y'all, when I say difficult, forgiveness was something that was so difficult for me, okay? It was very difficult for me to forgive until the day, I'm gonna tell you when that changed for me. Until the day that I had to be forgiven. Until the day I switched seats. And people, it became me being the person that had to apologize. It became me taking responsibility for my own actions. I could no longer play the victim mentality. I could no longer blame other people for my circumstance. I could no longer blame other people for the obstacles that I was going through. I had to take self-responsibility, but I also know it takes two to tango. So the next question that I had to ask myself was, what part of this did I contribute to this? And not only what part did I contribute to this, but then I took it a step further and I said, what could I have changed? It's an action that I took. Could it have been different if I would have had the circumstance, could have had a different outcome if I would have done X, Y, and Z? Now, regardless of if the answer is yes or no, that's not what is important. What's important is, are you taking the data that you're collecting from your experiences? Your experiences are nothing but information for you to improve. Let me say that again. Your experiences